Number 4. This happened during a Boy Scout campout when I was 15. My friend who was supposed to share the tent with me bailed at the last minute, so I had to pitch the tent and sleep in alone. The sun was going down, and after a long day of hiking we got back to camp to set up. It was already dark, and setting the tent by myself was harder than I expected. Someone came over and finally helped me, and then we ate dinner. After the usual telling of scary stories around the campfire, we all went to sleep. I was actually a little happy to have my own tent, more room, fewer snoring buddies, and I fell asleep quickly. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of somebody stomping around my tent. I assumed it was another scout going to take a leak or something. You might think our tents were pitched close together, but our scoutmasters had us spread out, so I was pretty far from the others. The stomping sounded like it was walking in a circle around my tent. I figured somebody was messing with me, so I called out and they stomped off into the woods. I nearly went after them, but decided it wasn't worth it and tried to fall back asleep. It was hard to, though. Sure enough, the stomping returned and started circling the tent again. I was pissed, so I got up and unzipped the tent door expecting to find another scout. But instead I saw a grown man, probably 6 feet 5 inches, in his mid-30s. My heart started racing, and I couldn't even scream. The man gave me a creepy smile and put his finger to his lips, signaling me to be quiet. I spun around and sprinted to my scoutmaster's tent, screaming. He ran out before I reached him. I told him what I'd seen, and he and another scoutmaster ran back to my tent with a hunting rifle. But they didn't find the man. They did find the footprints circling the tent. After that, we were all ordered to pitch our tents right next to each other, practically on top of one another. The trip was cut short the next day, and we went home. I've never gone camping since, and I never will again. Number 3. Last summer, a couple of my buddies and I went camping beside the Willamette River. We had a decent hike into the deeper woods, did some night fishing, listened to music, and drank until everything was hilarious. I guess we finally called it a night sometime after 2 a.m. I shared a tent with one buddy while the other two slept in a different tent. At first we heard laughing from the other tent and laughed with them, but it quickly got annoying, so we yelled for them to shut up. One of them called back, "It isn't us." I sat up, startled. It became clear the sound was only one person laughing, and it didn't sound like either of my friends. Even drunk, it felt strange for somebody to be out this far in the woods so late. The laughing gradually got closer and louder toward our camp. My friend shot up, his face worried. Our other buddy screamed that he was getting freaked out. As the laugh drew nearer, I could make out that it was a male laugh, probably someone in his 30s or 40s. He sounded drunk, like someone messing around with friends, but there was only his laugh. There was something indescribably creepy about it, as if something was missing from the sound. You had to be there to understand what I mean. The laughing was now right at the edge of our campsite, but there were no footsteps at all. That may not seem like a big deal, but it was impossible to move through those leaves and twigs without making noise. Then, suddenly, the laughing stopped completely. We had no idea where whoever it was standing since they hadn't made a single step sound. We sat there in silence, staring at one another. My friend was clearly freaking out, but doing his best to keep it together. Then something broke the quiet. The sound of something rubbing against the cottony fabric of our tent. Through the moonlight, we could see the outline of a hand pressing on the tent. We screamed and scrambled out. We ran as fast as we could through the woods, our other friends hot on our heels. After about 5 minutes of running, we miraculously found our car. I vomited from exhaustion before getting behind the wheel. I don't condone drinking and driving, but in that moment we were just desperate to get out of there. By far the most horrific experience of my life. No idea who or what that was or what they wanted. Number 2. After college, I went backpacking alone in the Canadian wilderness for a few weeks. To put it in perspective, I was in the middle of nowhere. The nearest town was a 3-hour bus ride away. During the 7 days, I only saw one other person, and even then only from a distance. He stayed in a canoe the whole time. This was before digital cameras were common. So I brought disposable cameras and took a lot of photos. When I got home and had them developed, Most were standard nature shots, until I reached about halfway through the first roll. There were 2 pictures of me asleep in my tent, curled up in my sleeping bag. I literally freaked out and had a complete breakdown. To this day, I have no idea how those pictures were taken. I haven't been camping since. I sleep with my door open and my curtains shut, and I still get paranoid. Like whoever took those photos is somehow still watching me. Number 1. My boyfriend and I decided to go to the gorge for a weekend of camping. Just the 2 of us. We usually went with a group, so this was new for us. When we stepped out of the car to gear up for the mile hike back to the campsite, 2 sketchy-looking guys popped out of the trailhead, stared at us, and then went back to their old-school Volkswagen camper van. I got a weird feeling, but shrugged it off, and we hiked to our usual area. I'd camped in that region a handful of times and knew several decent spots. I checked a few and picked one a little lower down the hill, thinking we'd be out of sight. I could still hear the guy yelling with someone back on the trail, though by the time we set up it was getting dark, so I went to look for firewood. Suddenly a man appeared and asked if we wanted help. He offered to sell us a bundle of firewood for $10. I laughed. We were surrounded by what we could pick up for free, but he insisted I wouldn't find much because they'd already cleared it out over the past few weeks. I asked how long he'd been camping, and he said almost a month. That made me uneasy, and when I mentioned hearing him yelling with someone else earlier, he stammered. Well, yeah, there's some dudes I know camping over there on the other side of the river, he muttered, then launched into how lonely he'd been since arriving. He said he was from Pennsylvania, had taken a bus to Lexington, and had been living in the woods behind where I currently work. I knew exactly where he meant. I'd seen homeless people, immigrants, and drug addicts coming in and out of those woods every day. Basically, he was a homeless man who'd somehow hitched a ride out to the gorge and decided to live there. He survived on snakes and bugs and sold bundles of firewood for cash. He claimed we were the first people he'd seen in weeks. His stories were inconsistent and clearly full lies. He wasn't alone, even though he insisted he was. He took us to his camp, and there was stuff for several people, not just one. He said he liked camping up top, where he could see everything and everyone. From his location, he had a straight-line view down to our campsite. By then it was dark, and he helped us get a fire going. I tried to politely get him to leave so my boyfriend and I could process what was going on. When he left, I whispered to my boyfriend that there was no way I could sleep with that lying, sketchy homeless guy watching us from a hill. We had no gun, no knife, not even a dog. My boyfriend convinced me to stay a little longer, so we decided to tough it out for the night. But all night we heard twigs and branches snapping around our tarp like someone was watching us. It was him. He was out there, watching. I said, "Let's quietly pack up and get the hell out of here." We left the tarp set up because taking it down would have made too much noise, and he'd know we were leaving. Just as I stood up with my pack, ready to go, he yelled, "Leaving so soon?" We moved as fast as we could. The guys started yelling for us to come back, which only made us go faster. In my head, we were heading straight into robbery, rape, or worse. He wasn't alone and his stories didn't add up. His background made me think he was running from something and hiding out off the grid. I called the Rangers the next morning and told them everything. Lucky for us, the only things we lost were a set of new tarps.